actually going to get the most out of an 18-inch, mini LED monster that pushes 120 Hz, a 64GB RAM kit and a brand new RTX 5090? And who should walk away before they even open the box? If you're sitting on the fence wondering whether the price tag is justified for everyday gaming or if it's more of a brag device for the ultra-hardcore, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing I asked myself before even looking at the specs was, can I actually fit this laptop into my daily routine without it becoming a freight train, and will it give me a measurable edge in the games I play right now? Let's start with the environment most of us live in. You probably have a modest desk, a decent chair, maybe a monitor you occasionally use as a second screen, and you're looking for a laptop that can replace a desktop when you need to move. The MSI Raider A18 is built around a massive 18-inch UHD plus mini LED panel. In practice, that means you get deep blacks and punchy colors that make open-world titles feel almost cinematic, but you also get a screen that's heavy and a footprint that can dominate a small desk. If you're the kind of gamer who spends long evenings at a desk, the extra real estate can actually be a win. You can see more of the map, spot enemies earlier, and enjoy a smoother 120 Hz experience without juggling a separate monitor. If you're constantly hopping between coffee shops, dorm rooms, or cramped apartments, the size alone might become a logistical headache. Now, the processor and GPU combo is where the hype really lives. An AMD Ryzen 9 9955HX3D paired with an RTX 5090 in the Blackwell family sounds like a future-proof dream, and it delivers in the way you'll notice most. Frame rates that stay consistently above 100 frames per second in titles like Cyberpunk 2077 on ultra settings, and the ability to crank up ray tracing without the dreaded stutter. I ran a few evenings of Battlefield V, Red Dead Redemption 2 and the latest Elden Ring, and the laptop held its own, delivering buttery smoothness even when I turned on DLSS and high-resolution textures. For a creator who also streams, the GPU's 24GB of GDDR7 memory means you can encode at high quality while gaming, which translates to a cleaner broadcast without the lag you sometimes see on lower-end rigs. But the raw horsepower comes with a trade-off that's easy to overlook until you open the box. The Cooler Boost 5 system with 2 fans, 7 heat pipes and a dedicated SSD cooling design does a respectable job, yet the laptop still runs warm under sustained load. I noticed the fans hitting a high whine after an hour of marathon gaming, and the chassis temperature rose into the mid-70s Celsius. It's not a failure, the hardware throttles only after you push past 90°C, but you'll hear the fans and feel the heat on your lap if you try to use it on a couch. So, if you plan to game on the go or in bed, you might want a cooling pad or to accept the acoustic compromise. Storage is another area where the Raider A18 shines for real-world usage. A 2TB Gen 5x4 NVMe SSD means games load in seconds, and the extra capacity lets you keep a sizable library without juggling external drives. I tested the load times on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and the difference compared to a 1TB SATA SSD was noticeable, a few seconds shaved off each launch. For someone who also does video editing or 3D rendering, that bandwidth helps when moving large files around, and the SSD cooling design prevents the drive from throttling during intensive write cycles. Memory is where MSI tried to future-proof you. 232GB DDR5 sticks running at 6400 MHz. In everyday use, you won't notice the difference between 32GB and 64GB unless you're running multiple VMs, heavy multitasking with Photoshop, Premiere and a game simultaneously, or doing large-scale simulations. For most gamers, 16GB is already enough, but if your workflow already leans heavily into array-mongery applications, the extra headroom will keep you from hitting a ceiling later on. That said, the dual-channel configuration does add a little extra heat, and it's another factor that nudges the overall power draw upward. Speaking of power, battery life is a classic pain point for any high-performance laptop, and the Raider A18 is no exception. On a full charge, I managed about 2 hours of